All right, we're going to go way back in time for this one, all the way to 1980, to look at a single research paper that honestly changed the world. It's the original blueprint for how almost every AI today is able to see. I'm talking about your phone's face unlock, self-driving cars, all of it. This is the story of the Neocognitron.
So to really get why this was such a big deal, you have to understand the huge problem it was trying to solve. Now, you and I, we can look at both of these images and, it's a 2, no problem. But for a computer back in 1980, whoa. If you shifted that number just a little bit, it was like a brand new object it had never seen before. And this was a massive, massive roadblock for computer vision.
It really highlights this tale of two different ways of seeing, doesn't it? Our vision is so flexible. You recognize a friend's face whether they're close up or way across the street. But early AI vision was just fragile. It was rigid. If everything wasn't lined up perfectly, the whole system just fell apart. So fixing this wasn't just some small tweak. It was the key to unlocking everything that came next.
Okay, so let's dig into that. This is what the paper's author, Kunihiko Fukushima, called the position problem. And it really was the biggest hurdle for anyone trying to get computers to recognize patterns back then. I mean, how in the world do you build a system that doesn't completely break the second an object moves?
And Fukushima, he spelled it out himself. He basically said, look, all these other models out there, they're fundamentally broken. Their success is completely tied to where an object shows up in the picture. His whole mission was to sever that link and build something that could actually handle the messiness of the real world.
So, where do you even start with a problem that big? Well, this is where it gets really cool. Instead of looking at other computer code, Fukushima looked somewhere else entirely. He turned to the most powerful and flexible vision system on the planet, our own brains.
And he wasn't just guessing how the brain worked. He was building on some seriously groundbreaking research. See, back in 1962, a couple of neuroscientists, Hubel and Weissel, actually won a Nobel Prize for figuring out the basic structure of our visual cortex. They found these 2 specific types of cells, and that discovery, well, that became the blueprint.
So what was this blueprint? It's a really elegant 2-step process. First, you've got these things called simple cells. Think of them as tiny detectors for very basic stuff, like a single horizontal line. But, and this is key, only in one very specific spot. Then, you've got complex cells. These guys listen to a whole group of simple cells, and they fire up if that horizontal line appears anywhere in their zone. It's this 1-2 punch that lets our brains see things, even when they move around.
And that right there, that was Fukushima's light bulb moment. He thought, what if I could build that, but in a computer? So that's exactly what he did. He created artificial versions of those simple and complex cells and started stacking them up in layers to build his new network.
So first up, he built the S cell. The S stands for simple, just like in the brain. The best way to think about an S cell is like a detective who's a total specialist. Maybe their only job is to spot a sharp corner or a perfectly vertical line. That's it. That's their whole world.
But here's the catch. It is an extremely picky detective. It will only shout "aha" if that clue is found in the exact spot it's supposed to be. If that vertical line shifts over by even 1 pixel, poof, this detective says nothing, it sees nothing.
And this is where the genius solution to that whole position problem kicks in. He then created the C cell for complex. If the S cell is the detective on the beat, the C cell is like the precinct captain, overseeing a whole squad of them.
Now this precinct captain, the C cell, doesn't care about the exact street address. It just cares about the general neighborhood. It listens to all its S cell detectives, and if any one of them calls in and says, "Hey, I found that vertical line," the C cell activates. It reports up the chain, "Great, we found the clue in our area." And right there, that simple idea is how the model starts to handle things moving around.
But it's not just one layer of detectives. This is the really beautiful part. It's a whole hierarchy. The first layer learns to spot the most basic stuff, like lines and curves. The next layer then takes those lines and curves as its input and learns to combine them into slightly more complex things, like corners or circles. And this just keeps going, layer after layer, getting more abstract, until the very last layer can say, "Hey, I see a corner, a long line, and another line. That's a number 4.
Okay, so this whole structure is brilliant, but there's a big question hanging in the air, right? How did those first S cells know to look for lines and corners in the first place? Nobody programmed them to do that. And the answer is maybe the most mind-blowing part of this whole thing. It figured it out on its own.
Fukushima's own words describe it best. It was just so simple. All you had to do was show the network a bunch of images, over and over again.
That's it. You didn't tell it, hey, look for a 2. You just showed it a bunch of 2s. This is what we now call unsupervised learning, and it's a huge deal. The network just finds the important patterns all by itself.
So how does that even work? Well, it's a simple but powerful loop. You show it an image, and just by random chance, one of those S cells will light up a little more than its neighbors. The network sees this and says, okay, that one's the winner, and it strengthens the connections that made it fire. But then, and this is the absolute key, it copies that exact same training to a whole group of other S cells. So now you have a whole team of detectives, all trained to spot the exact same clue, but each one is watching a different part of the image.
So you've got this brain-inspired design, you've got this amazing self-teaching method, but the rubber has to meet the road, right? The ultimate question is, did it actually work? So Fukushima put his Neocognitron to the test.
And get this, the training set was tiny. He didn't use millions of images. He used just 5 simple handwritten digits, a 0, a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4. That was the entire textbook this thing had to study.
And the results? They were incredible, a total game changer. I mean, sure, it recognized the exact digits it trained on. No surprise there. But the amazing part, it also recognized a 3 that was moved over to the side. It recognized a 3 that was bigger. And, this is the real kicker, it could even recognize a messy, distorted, noisy 3 it had never seen before. It wasn't just memorizing pictures, it was actually understanding the pattern.
So, what's the big deal about a paper from over 40 years ago? I mean, in AI years, that's practically the Stone Age. But the truth is, the ideas in this paper aren't history. They are the absolute foundation of what's happening right now. They're everywhere.
You see these 3 core ideas? Stacking up layers, detecting features, and being able to handle shifts in position? Well, that is the literal blueprint for what we now call convolutional neural networks, or CNNs. And CNNs, they're the engine behind pretty much all modern AI vision. That process of the C-cell generalizing over an area, we just call it pooling now. It's the exact same idea.
And Fukushima, he knew it. He didn't say, this is a small step forward. No, he called his model a drastic solution to this problem that had been plaguing the field for years. And you know what? He couldn't have been more right.
So, I'll leave you with this thought. The next time your phone recognizes your face instantly, or you see an AI identifying objects in the real world, just think about how much of that technology's DNA goes all the way back to this one paper from 1980. It's a direct line from this brain-inspired idea to the incredible AI we live with every single day.